Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review of What If Season 2, Episode 8, What If the Avengers Assembled in 1602. Of course, 1602 is the reference and based on the Marvel comic by Neil Gaiman and Andy Kubert. In this episode, Captain Carter tries to undo the anomaly that strands familiar heroes and villains in the year 1602 to prevent that universe from dying. We have a big cast on this one. As always, I'm going to go into spoilers, so you've been warned. Go watch the episode before you watch this. This probably has the most appearances by a lot of the heroes. Now, I'll name the characters. I will give you up front. Um, Mick Wingard voices Tony Stark. Lake Bell voices Natasha Romanoff, and we have Josh Keaton as Steve Rogers. Everyone else is voiced by their original counterpart from the live action series. So we have, of course, Jeffrey Wright the Watcher, who is a new character for the What If. We have Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter, Samuel L. Jackson as Sir Fury, Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda Merlin, Chris Hemsworth as King Thor, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner the Hulk, Jon Favreau is Happy Hogan, aka Happy the Freak. So we do get to see him turn into his purple version of Hulk that was established earlier in the season. Paul Rudd is Scott Lang, the Ant-Man, Sebastian Stan is Bucky Barnes, and towards the end, for the setup of the next episode, we'll have Benedict Cumberbatch returning as the Supreme Doctor Strange. So this was a really fun episode. I love the premise of the 1602 comic book. Um, I will say they changed a lot other than in the comic. We have of course, we have very different characters, right? We get to see Spider-Man and Daredevil. We get to see X-Men as well, like the mutants are a big part of that. In this case, we only really have Wanda as part of that. That would be one of the characters that kind of translated over. So this was mainly about the feel and the look of the time, as opposed to kind of really adapting that story, very similar to when they did the Marvel Zombies. That wasn't really the Marvel Zombie story. They kind of just molded it into the MCU so it will fit with the characters that were established at the time. Now, I will say it's really cool that we get to hear all these characters kind of come back together. This is probably the biggest voice cast so far in the season. I imagine for the finale we might have even more. Um, but it was really interesting. It was really fun. I love seeing the 1602 take on it. I feel like they didn't really lean much into it, and there are some things that where they don't have technology and they don't have like everything that they would have in the current time. But a lot of them have their powers is not really explained, and they don't. You wouldn't really want an episode to kind of take the time to explain how all our heroes have their current powers. The big story is that in the previous episode we saw, or actually in an episode prior in the season, we saw Wanda Merlin, and Sir Fury bring Peggy Carter right at the end of her episode about with the Hydra Stomper. She's brought into the 1602 world to try to save these are rifts are creating are these rifts are being created and just taking people and destroying the world all over the world in 1602. Of course, they don't have the technology to figure out what those really are, so they call upon Captain Carter to find a remnant from another world that also is stuck there, who's causing all these rifts. So the inclusion of this person, kind of like an anomaly, an incursion, if you will, from some of the lingo that we've established in the MCU. They're causing an incursion by just being there and staying there. Now, of course, now the mystery turns into like, who is this person, and that's kind of what the episode revolves around. We do get to see some really cool moments of like them fighting with like old timey style, but also kind of like their normal powers. Um, Loki is probably one of my favorite because in this world, in this version of himself, he's just like this Shakespearean actor. Like they even mentioned, I don't know how historically accurate that would be, that in America people would know who William Shakespeare is, but he keeps trying to tell people about this play with Iago, and like like how it's gonna be all the rage or whatever, but it's like a first draft. So he's supposedly friends with William Shakespeare, and he's just very, very much like he's very extra about it. I think Tom Hiddleston hopefully had a really good time with that performance because I know I sure did. We get some really cool fights. Like I said, seeing these old timey versions of these characters is a lot of fun. But then we do finally get the reveal. Tony Stark makes a machine. They get the little whatchamacallit, whatever you need. Like, they have a little doodad always that you have to get to power the machine. They finally get that. And it is revealed that in this world, there is a version of Steve Rogers called Rogers Hood, because of course there is, um, who apparently was sent there when in a fight with Thanos, like we saw in Infinity War. He hits his gauntlet with the shield, knocking the time stone, but then that also causes him to kind of be slung back to this 1602 world, and that's what was causing the rift. So, overall, the story makes sense thematically because then you finally have Peggy and Steve Rogers together again, but then they realize that they can be together, even if they're different versions of each other, uh, because Steve needs to leave this universe, otherwise, it will die. And ultimately, that's what ends up happening. So yeah, we get to see. It's really nice to pay kind of like on homage of like at the end of that. Only in the main timeline, it seems that that's the only place that Peggy and Steve could eventually end up together. Unfortunately, it is a tragedy for both of them in every other world or every other universe. So really interesting stuff. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. It was fun. It was a fun episode. I think there's been some better episodes from prior, so I will say this one, as much fun as I had, like just seeing everyone kind of back together. I think just overall some of the episodes were better, but this still has some really nice character designs. I wish they had leaned more into it, and this is the time where I really wish they would also use different types of animation for each episode, because this would have benefited so much from a 2D animation, even like a very loose scratchy feel. I think that would have been cool, but the animation style that the CG animation that they have is so polished that sometimes you kind of forget you are in 1602 because everything just looks so cool and kind of modern. So that's my only main gripe, I would say. Of course, we get a little stinger at the end. And these stingers happen before the credits, but uh, the Supreme Doctor Strange that we met last season fighting with Ultron shows up, and Peggy, of course, knows him because they fought together. So they figure out he needs her help, and that's kind of where we leave off, and that'll be in the finale, I'm sure. So yeah, overall, another really fun episode of What If. So let me know what was your favorite character that showed up. Let me know what some of your favorite moments was for this. I'm really excited to get into the finale. So if you have seen this episode, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone.